What's going on, guys? Andrew Huang here again for Business OneTake. Welcome to my second episode of the series that I've decided to create here to go over just some basic topics about how to start up your business, running it, and just drawing upon my personal experiences running my business, Gamers Heaven, over the last 5 years, and hopefully hoping to give you guys some insight as well as some ideas and inspirations for your respective businesses and ideas as well too. And I know also for those of you out there who might be following just along my journey in my business, this is kind of a good way to kind of get a deep dive into my head as well too. So that we're gonna go from there. But this is gonna be my series, my continued series of doing my one take videos. So it's gonna be just me, just sit down straight through, go for about 10-15 minutes talking about topics ranging from how to start up your business and how to run it, and then just general topics as well too. So answering questions that you guys have. So continuing on from last week though, before I begin to apologize for the echoing that you still may be hearing. I did open the window here in the room that I'm recording in right now. I do have customers outside the store, so I really can't record out there. But in here, I'll eventually get soundboards and foam boards so we can, reduce the echoing and stuff. But hopefully the new mic attachment here that I got for my phone, and also the new phone that I got, hopefully ups the quality for you guys. There's voices out there. Truly, we're doing this live, guys. But no, last week we discussed about how to go ahead and formulate your business idea. So how to go ahead and really try to make an idea that you really love, refine it so you can go ahead and compete, out there in the world of all the millions of businesses that exist. But then how do you go about then coming up with the budget? So in the next episode, I'll go over how to finance your startup business. But today I want to talk about creating your initial budget to start up your company. So let's say you come up with your idea, you've done the steps and you're like, cool, I have this really unique idea that I want to execute. Now you have to discover, well, how much money do I need? Before you even think about how to get the money, you need to figure out how much money do you need to start it. And I'm actually shocked that sometimes, even me, I always get caught off guard too when people are like, how much money do you need to start a Gamers Heaven? I'm like, well, and the thing is, I paused because I'm like, in the last 5 years, it was me constantly reinvesting in stuff in the way I did my business. And so like, it's hard to give an answer sometimes, but where you can start is coming up with your operations budget. So start off by just figuring out, especially if you're a brick and mortar location. Now, if you're doing, you're developing a product and you're inventing something different, this may not be the exact video for you just because there's additional costs and services that go into manufacturing and in terms of developing new product lines from between items and foods that I'm not quite an expert in, so can't really deep dive into there. But in terms of a brick and mortar retail location, a physical storefront location, best place to start is, what is your ideal business size? So do you want to be at a small 600 square foot store in the wall, 1,000 square foot, or do you want to be a freaking Costco sized warehouse? You need to make that determination. Once you determine that factor, you have to start then calculating the cost of running that building. And so you have to figure out, itchy nose, embarrassing. Now you have to consider like what's going to be the cost of operating that building. So everything from the lease, the maintenance costs, and the utilities, which will vary greatly. Quickly, lesson learned me personally. Just because you double the size of your building doesn't mean you're doubling your utilities. I found that the hard way that utility costs will exponentially increase because the more open space that an HVAC unit has to cover, the harder it has to work. You get a bigger unit, the more amount of energy is going to require to go ahead and operate that. Just like if you think about it, smaller cars typically have better fuel efficiency than bigger cars because although the engine is bigger, it's still requiring more energy to move that larger mass. So that's a quick little metaphor for you guys, but consider all of those things. Consider your monthly maintenance, your upkeep in terms of not just maintenance costs, but your cleaning supplies. You have to make sure that your store needs to be compliant. So in my case, where I'm running a full-time kitchen, I have to make sure that I have a full pest control service. My chemicals are fully stocked every month. I have clean towels for the rags that we use in the kitchen, and so forth. And that's an extra cost you have to consider. On top of that, once you figure out your building costs, figure out what your payroll is going to be. So obviously you want to determine, if you are going to try to pay yourself or have employees right off the get-go, you're going to have to figure out that cost. And so how many people do you want? what pay scale do you want to be able to give out, especially based on what skill labor you're going to need. Determine that, and then you'll be able to determine your monthly cost there. Next thing to do, what are your subscription services going to be? So not just your Netflix and your Hulu pluses, but everything from your accounting software, your point of sale software, your payroll management, payroll, timesheets, everything. There are a lot of, even Microsoft Word and Excel, you're going to need Microsoft Office 365 to run that. Are you going to need Photoshop and Adobe softwares? Like, all of these services will quickly add up. You'll be surprised on how much they add up to, because a lot of you may be thinking, oh, it's only $6 here, $7 there, $8 there, $10 there. Next thing you know it, you're looking at a $300-400 a month bill that you weren't really considering. Firsthand experience. But these are things like, you want to go ahead and make. And I encourage you guys to sit down and really write all of this out, because the last thing you want to do is start up your business and 6 months down the line, you're kind of struggling financially just to figure out right then and there that you don't need certain expenses and stuff like that, or you weren't prepared for it. You're better off knowing all of as much expenses as possible. Trust me, you can't calculate for everything, but you can do your best to be prepared and be ready. And the other reason of determining all these costs and factors is so you can then set up your monthly budget that you're going to need to know to run your store. So, for example, if you're going to need $10,000 a month to keep your doors open, have your full staff and all your services, you can know that number. So that way you, number one, know how much money your business needs to be making per month to at least break even. But number two as well too, and this is the thing that I know a lot of places kind of gloss over, but having money in the bank to cover your operating expenses. And what I mean by that is typically most businesses will strive to, and I've always been told to have anywhere between 6 to 9 months worth of operating costs just sitting in the bank as a rainy day cost. So if we go back to the example of $10,000 a month, that means you want to have any given time have about $60,000 to $90,000 a month in the bank for any rainy day. So in case business declines or a pandemic happens like COVID-19, you are prepared for that, so you can keep your buildings operating. You can go ahead and keep your employees and staffed and keep up payments and everything, and you guys can still survive. Now, I know not everyone has the ability to go ahead and have that cushion or have the luxury to. We didn't either. When the pandemic hit, trust me, we were running around with like a chicken with its head cut off. We were still doing our best to figure it out. And trust me, every other small business out there, every other major business as well, was figuring their way out as well too. So you'll notice that some of the businesses that were okay had that cushion fund and were prepared to go through everything, and they were okay. And this is kind of where I wish, if I had the ability to do so, I would have done the same, so I didn't have to let my entire team go at the time, and I wouldn't have stressed as much as I did in the first few months earlier this year as I did. That's something to consider. Now, for those of you that may not have the the resources to do so. So a lot of you may be thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even afford, I'm not going to be able to fit that in my budget. Well, another thing you can consider is maybe a 1 to 3 month budget. So in terms of, so when we go back to $10,000, $10,000 to $30,000 in the bank is a lot easier than $60,000 to $90,000. Now with that 3 month cushion, that is purely in there because obviously when you first start off the business, now while many of us will wish that it's gangbusters right off the bat when you open the door, that's not necessarily the case, and you need time for the business to ramp up, gain traction, gain new customers, and to get that revenue where you want it to be. Now, if you can get that right off the bat and you're confident, you've done all the marketing and social media up front, and you're simply building a storefront off of it, that's good for you. But even those people, you still need to have that cushion fund in there just to protect yourself, because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. You can have all the experts tell you in the world that they can predict that XYZ will happen, but sometimes that doesn't happen all the time. So think of it as an insurance fund, because the thing is, if you don't end up using that money, because a lot of you might be thinking, well, I'd rather use that for something else. Well, consider this too. Let's say you're one of the people who are starting off kind of small. If you're able to stabilize your business, grow it, and never have to touch that money, that money in the bank now becomes your equity in terms of when you go to apply for financing, for loans. Let's say you're really trying to expand your inventory, you want to do an inventory loan, the bank can now see that your records is, oh, you've been operating pretty decently and you've maintained a balance of $10,000, $20,000 in the bank. And they're going to be able to, you're going to be able to leverage that in your favor. So that's something to consider down the line that I'll bring up later on. Now, there's a plethora of other things to go over in startup costs, because in terms of like when I went out there, there's a lot of things I did, I always forget to mention. So other things to consider to remember is how you're going to form your business. So you have, obviously you're going to have to get yourself a certificate of organization. So you're going to have to figure out if you're going to be an LLC, partnership, sole proprietorship, etc. That's going to, you have to register that. You have to register your business name, register in your state. If you're doing a brick and mortar physical location like me, if you're going to do retail, you have to go apply for a state resale license to get your account number for that. If you're doing food, you have to go get certified by the health department. You also have to get a ServSafe certification. So in my area, I was required to get a ServSafe certification as well as a local county health certification. And then the county did a health inspection as well on top of that. So those are all fees that I had to consider and budget in when I did all this. And so remember to factor those in the costs. Now, aside from all of that, don't forget, you also have to furnish your building. So whether you get an office or a physical storefront location, your customers are going to need to be able to either shop or sit in your space. So you want to obviously determine, based on your building size, how many of what furniture pieces. So for example, in a game store like mine, so mine's more of a game lounge space, I had to, if I were to start fresh, I would have to consider the counter costs, the display costs for the retail product, the grocery side of things, the refrigeration units, not only for the groceries, but for the kitchen, the sinks, the 3-bay sinks, rinse sinks, mop sinks, all the cooking equipment, the tables for the games, the esports area, the PC service, it just goes on and on. But those are the things you want to go ahead and itemize, so that way you have everything you need right from the beginning. Now, for those of you that might be on a tight budget or know that you might not be able to raise $1 million like some of these, brand names and people and influencers have, start off modest, because that's what I did in the beginning too. So I'll go over this in my next video, my next time when I talk about the financials. But my original business plan was like, this is 6 years ago. I was looking for anywhere between $250,000 to $400,000 to start my initial store. Nobody was going to give me that. And so what I determined was, like, I had about $30,000 to my name. Back when I was working at my last company, I looked at my retirement, got my bonus, and I was like, with $30,000, would I be able to build a small proof of concept store? Just so I can get the idea out there, I can kind of show people kind of my idea where I want to go, and then see if I can find investors or additional financing. I did all my calculations, I factored it all in, I determined I could run for about 3 to 6 months and just give it a shot. And that's, and the rest is history. And that's what I did to start off with. So don't let the numbers scare you. You definitely want to figure out what your ideal situation is, but then figure out where you can start, what you can fit in, what you can sacrifice, and what you can live with. But obviously this is all on a case-by-case basis. So these are just kind of some points to consider when you're doing your budgets. Now, for those of you doing manufacturing and stuff, there's other things in terms of patents and trademarks, machinery costs, prototype costs, etc., that you want to go and research the other people who've done that, obviously. But yeah, so my time's about up here. So I do apologize for the roughness of this video. I'm still kind of figuring out my way on doing this, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it's giving you guys some ideas and some inspiration as well too. Yeah. Ooh. Sorry, throat's getting a little bit dry there. But no, if you guys have any topics or questions that you may have that you would like to see me address in future videos, please go ahead and leave a comment down below. And let me know if you're enjoying this series by just simply leaving a thumbs up on this video. If you haven't already done so, please do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell as I continue to develop this channel, make new content for you guys, and then potentially just answering your guys' questions. And then for those of you who are coming from my TikTok, as well as here for potentially the franchising side of things, this is my way of also telling you guys, giving you guys ideas on just kind of who I am and where I came from as well too. So hopefully we just build this channel and the overall community together here. So again, guys, always appreciate you guys' support, and just thank you for watching. And whatever time of day of the world it is that you are watching this video, please have a good day, good morning, or good evening. We'll see you guys.